I think we were okay with it.
Yeah, and they.
Think we're good?
I think we're good.
Think we're good, Commissioner.
Ready to go? All right. Good evening and welcome to the episode 5 of Port of Cascade Locks 2024 2.0. It is March 19th, 2024, little after 6 p.m. Start with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
President Lorraine,
I am here.
Vice President Clute,
Here.
Commissioner Nats,
Here.
Commissioner Peterson,
Here.
Commissioner Tweed.
Here.
Modifications, additions, and changes to the agenda.
No, sir.
All right. Okay, I guess we're front loading the consent agenda. Approval of minutes for commission meetings from February 20th, 2024, March 5th, 2024. Ratification of the bills in the amount of $365,101.91. Approval of the payroll for February 19th, 2024 in the amount of $36,493.60, and for March 4th, 2024 in the amount of $35,278.38.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda in its entirety as stated.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Excellent. Presentation, an annual review of the audit for 2020, 2021. Yeah.
Yep, sorry. We have with us today David Bledsoe from Polly Rogers, who was in charge and handled our audits. We also have from Marina & Co, Matt Atkin. These two gentlemen, along with Melissa, have worked quite heavily to bring this to you guys today. And I know you were glad to have it off your plates. And so we can move on to our next audits, which we are planning to be caught up by the end of this year and back on track. So David, thanks for coming in and meeting the commission today, walking us through us. And Matt, Phil, welcome to step up and speak to any questions that we may have or sort of support David in his discussion with us. Oh,
We have a technical problem.
All right, thank you for the introduction. Good to see everyone again. Can you hear me all right? Perfect. The camera keeps jumping around, so I wasn't sure who could hear me anytime. But good evening. My name is David Bledsoe. I'm an audit supervisor here with Polly Rogers & Co CPA firm. Been working on the commission, the ports audit now for a couple of years, and I'm happy to kind of walk you through the results of the fiscal 2020 to 2021 audit, as well as the process that we are undertaking along with Matt from Marina & Co to get the audits back up on track here for the next fiscal year. If you have in front of you a copy of the management letter for the 2021 audit, I'd like to direct your attention there first. Someone else give me a head nod when you can see it. Alrighty, gonna assume that you all were able to find that page. I first want to draw attention to the first finding there on page 1, relating to capital assets.
Page 85.
page 85 in your packet.
Okay, thank you. Alright, so the management letter, as you're aware, is a communication that we give when we encounter items that are either a material weakness or a significant deficiency in the design or operation of internal controls. The first item in front of you is related to the capital assets. This is an item that Matt and I worked pretty closely on to try to clean up for the 2021 audit. As you know, during fiscal 2020 to 2021, the port continued to and embarked on really large expansions of operations. A part of that was including buildings, capital additions therein. During that process, we identified several areas where initially financial records did not appropriately grab those capitalizations and express them as being added to the capital asset register. You're able to work with Matt over at Marina & Co and correct this, and the financial statements in front of you are corrected for it. So that is the first finding that we did have. Again, this is a material weakness, so this is about as severe of a finding as we can get, largely related to really the dollar impact of the port's activity that time. The next ones are significant deficiencies relating to long-term receivables with some of the flex building tenants, as well as the timing of accounting records and when it was available. Again, these do relate to fiscal 2020 to 2021. So the port is well on their way building out new controls and processes to help get back on track for the next couple audits that we're going to be undertaking, I believe, starting next week. These first significant deficiency and second finding to draw your attention to relates to long-term receivables. Some of these receivables were renegotiated during the course of fiscals 2019 to 20 through 2020 to 2021. So one of the items we had to work closely with Matt on was realigning the financial records to better capture who owed what amount of money at what point in time and correctly disclose that in the financials as being long-term receivables rather than general accounts receivable. The second significant deficiency and third item on your letter here relates to just timing of things. Due to, as I mentioned, due to the large increase in activity for the port, certain systems and processes were not fully fleshed out in order for us to have really ready to go reconciliation items, as well as financial records for that audit during that point in time. That does take us to the end of the material weaknesses and significant deficiencies. On page 4, as numbered in the management letter, there are a couple items that are not considered to be significant deficiencies, but are general recommendations that we're giving to the commission to consider. The first one is something that we discuss with almost every municipal entity I work with in Oregon, covering fidelity insurance. There is a maximum of about $1 million, depending on the fiscal year we're reviewing, for fidelity insurance for individual employees, as well as the port itself, to cover your cash balances. Cash held in and above that is not covered by your fidelity insurance. This is a separate insurance product than your FDIC and CUA insurances. Those are, as we're aware, $250,000 per account. The state as well has a program referred to as the Public Funds Collateralization Program that essentially back insures any deposits in and above those amounts, as long as they're with qualified depositories, which the port only uses qualified depositories. This finding specifically looks at employee insurance in the case of misappropriation of assets. The second one relates to QuickBooks software that the port uses. The third and fourth kind of interlay. The port at the point in time that we are finding on here, fiscal 2020 to 2021, had a limited staff in the business office and yet to contract with Marina and Co. For assistance with financial operations. And due to the design of the internal controls, what people and policies were in place at that point in time, there wasn't a perfect separation of duties. The fourth one is a general recommendation we're giving to the commission to continue expressing prudent financial oversight over the entity, as well as continuing to evolve that and better articulating monitoring practices of what you're looking at on a be it monthly or quarterly basis, how granular you are about looking at it, as well as really evolving the process to continue with the port's expansion of operations. That is the extent of our communication in the management letter. I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission may have about the communications or really any numbers in the financial report.
Well, so all of these, I guess, deficiencies and even best practices, they specifically relate to 2021 and not necessarily how things are currently being ran, correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. These communications are aligned at fiscal 2020 to 2021. As I briefly mentioned earlier, I'm due to be in Cascade Locks starting on Monday to start working on the fiscal 22 audits, as well as fiscals 23 and 24 to the extent that we can to try to get those done concurrently and assist the port in getting back on track. Any communications that we'll have for those audits will be given separately.
So I guess as far as this is probably a question for you, Jeremy, but as far as the non-significant deficiencies with the best practices, have these been seen to, or are these things that we should action on now?
Yeah, no, I think that's probably, I think not to drag this, I don't want to drag this out any farther than we can, but we've done a lot of work on this, and Matt has led us in a lot of that work. So Matt, would you be able to go back sort of behind exactly what, David just did and sort of fill us in on what some of those deficiencies were specifically to the port and the business that we do, and then also some of the things we're doing to correct those now?
I can either do that now, or that's kind of one of the steps in the agenda tonight, is to go over that plan of action, which covers those 4 items that he specifically called out.
We wait till then?
Yeah,
Perfect. Thanks, Matt.
I will just add one additional thing, because I think David kind of led to this, but I don't know that he came straight out and said it. The financial statements were given a unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion, meaning it's the best audit opinion you can get for financial statements. So while there was a material weakness and a few significant deficiencies, the financial statements present fairly the financial position of the port as of June 30, 2021.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. Part of the communications that we had about capital assets and receivables specifically is due to the amount of time that we had to work along with port staff as well as Matt to correct the financials to accurately display that information for you. So the end numbers that you're looking at in that financial report, those are solid, free of material misstatement, considered to be clear, neutral, and convey good information. The management letter is addressed at really the process that it took to get to that end destination.
And so in a few minutes, when we go over the plan of action, we're going to kind of discuss what we've put in place to make sure that going forward, we are not getting those same comments. I will mention that it's possible for the 2022 audit that we might see those same things, because as of 2022, nothing had really changed. And so that'll be something that, it'll be up to David and the audit staff if they decide that needs to be a comment during that period. But as of what we're currently doing, I can go into more detail as we get through that plan of action.
Yeah, to expand a bit on the plan of action, it's a requirement from the Oregon Secretary of State when an audit report includes some material weaknesses or significant deficiencies for the elected body to draft and submit a plan of action about how they choose to attempt to rectify or not rectify the findings. To speak on the latter, some of the findings relate, especially some of your smaller special purpose districts, things like specific actuary evaluations over pension obligations. Many small districts don't retain those, so their audit reports do contain communications that they are not beholden to all of the tenets of GAAP or the generally accepted accounting policies and procedures of the United States. They're not consistent with that. These are more reflective of audit findings, so we don't expect those to recur.
What if they do? We got the problems.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is for 2021, we've solved the 2021 problems that we're aware of. Matt is obviously looking for any other problems as he moves and combs through our books and looks at the way we're approaching our finances. He's made some corrections already that potentially weren't necessarily reflected as a.
So theoretically, the problems will be getting less and less in subsequent years.
In 2024 is December of this year, we should be caught up. It's quite possible that sometime in November, we'll come back and have to look at the last 2 audits and hear similar things. It's quite possible.
Excellent.
And potentially some new things, some things that changed, right? There was a big evolution that happened between really 2019 up until 2023. Like you said, we took on the buildings, we took on some additional loans. We also moved a lot of our operations online. So we moved to having the campground be online. We moved to having the marina be online. So all of these things before that were cash and check that came into the port now got moved into deferred revenue and ways that we have to collect that money, but then also how it has to be reflected in the books. And something that I can say without a doubt, because I was a part of it, is we did a really good job of finding solutions that helped us on the operational side. We would implement those, work out all the bugs, And then we'd be like, you got this, right, Melissa? And then Melissa would be like, yeah, I'm not sure how any of this system fits the way that we currently do business, right? And so that just through this process that we've learned is, all right, the front end, before we put this in and solve those operational issues, what does this mean on how it's viewed on the financial side after the fact? And we're seeing some of that come through. Even now, we're cleaning some of that up, actually a lot of that up. We're cleaning up a lot of that, moving us online and not really having an understanding how it was going to impact the accounting side of things.
Right. Okay. And there's no action we have to take at this moment. We have an action item, coming up here,
That's right.
just to adopt the resolution to approve the action plan for it.
That's right.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. This is quite enlightening.
Thanks, David. We appreciate all your hard work. We'll see you next week. Do you know how many folks you're bringing with you?
Probably. Still trying to work that out. I don't want to crowd your office there.
All right. When you let us know, let us know. Or when you know,
Thank you very much.
So yeah, now if we want to move over to Matt a little bit, we can talk about the resolution. I think you can also speak sort of about each one of those items and how each one reflected the report and some of the work that we've done. And it's been a heavy lift for Matt and we appreciate it. So thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
All right. Increased rates or?
Yeah, we're still on this one. Matt, do you
Still on
want
this one? Okay.
Matt, do you want to take us through now, the action plan?
So we're gonna go ahead and, handle that now?
Yes.
Okay, good.
You want to walk us through that action plan, Matt?
Yep. I was just flip back to the agenda to make sure that was what we were doing. So, okay, so I'm not going to go through the specifics. Do you guys want me to share my screen, or do you guys have that agenda item? It's page 89 in your packet.
I apologize, everyone. Matt is correct. This was supposed to be item 4A. It feels a little brutal to make him sit through a campground conversation. So would anybody be opposed to that?
So we should have had a modification to the.
Yeah.
We should have. You're definitely right.
Perfect.
Yeah, okay, that was my fault. Were we good with that?
We're good.
I'm okay. Okay, thank you, Matt.
No worries. Okay, so like David had said, so the plan of action is something that the Secretary of State started requiring, I think it was 2 years ago. They just want to make sure that as things are found in audits, that people are actually doing things to correct the issues, or at least make sure that the board is aware, board commission is aware what's going on. And they might say, look, our plan of action is to do nothing because we don't feel this is a high enough risk. That's not what we're saying in this case, but that's something that in the future, it could be something that you say depending on what the finding is. So the first one that they said is a material weakness, and I want to specify like a material weakness. When an auditor says that, what they're saying is this is something that if you don't put some controls in place, could make your financial statements materially incorrect. And so what they said during the process is, hey, we can't figure this out. You guys need to figure this out more so we can make sure it's correct. And so that's when I got involved. I started digging into the information, comparing what was on your guys' asset listing with also what the auditors had presented the previous year. And I mean, David and I went back and forth, I don't know how many different times, trying to identify and figure out why things weren't matching up, because what you guys had on your list didn't match what they were presenting. And so we went through that. We identified those things. We identified items that didn't need to be listed anymore on your capital asset listing. We disposed of those items through the financial statements in the proper method. And then we were able to have the asset listing that you guys keep match exactly to what was on the financial statements. And so one of the things that we've done for both 22 and we're about to finish up for 23 is we're going through all the items that come through your guys' system, and we're identifying what things should be capitalized. And then we're making sure that we create a list of asset additions. We're going back through the asset listings and identifying if any of these things need to be removed from the asset listing because they were either damaged and disposed of, or they just have been pretty much scrapped because their useful life is over. There's no value left in them. And so that's going to be what we do on either a quarterly or annual basis, is we're going to go through and we're going to perform those capital asset reviews, and we're going to make sure that those numbers tie back to the, you guys use a system called CMI. Make sure that the assets listed in there are going to match what is in QuickBooks and also what's going to be on your financial statements. So that's the long story about that one. Are there any questions about that one?
And just so everyone's aware, our finance subcommittee has been through this exact term with Matt. They had an opportunity to ask questions and dig in deep, not that you should or couldn't hear, but you've had two commissioners who've also done work on this, as well as the rest of the subcommittee staff. Not that you shouldn't ask whatever you want, but to be well aware that there's 2 or 3 hours from both of those folks on our subcommittee that have worked on this.
Awesome, good work.
So moving forward, we should be 1 to 1 to 1. Everything that we're expecting is what we should see, what we should get.
I think it's fair to say, I mean, at least through the conversations that I've had with Matt, is that you're always going to find comments on your audit, like an audit that just comes back and they're like, hey, keep up the good work. We're pretty few and far between. So we will without a doubt always have things that we need to improve on, things we can do better, especially when you start to look at the last page here. There are some things that are listed here that have been listed on our last 15 audits, and we've just chosen not to change them. We can't change them the way that the board is set up. We just don't have enough heads, enough staff to separate duties and some of those things. So we will without a doubt see some commentary back on.
Oh, not necessarily commentary. It was actually to the last point that he made about the capital assets and just making sure that what we're expecting is what we will actually see at the end of the year.
Gotcha, understood.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, is that we should have everything dialed in to, by the time the auditors are here looking at our information, we've put in the information, we've reviewed that information, we've made any corrections that need to be made, and we have a final listing that's going to go to the auditors for them to look at and audit.
Okay, let's.
Oh.
Now we've got a few more.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt.
Okay, I'm going to move into the significant deficiencies. So significant deficiencies are similar to a material weakness.
Page
90.
Next page.
Oh, it is, yeah.
It's
Sorry,
90.
Just the next page, yep. So number 2 in here is significant deficiencies. So when you think of a significant deficiency, it's similar to a material weakness, except it's likely not to cause a material misstatement in the financial statements. It would likely just be a smaller error that's in there. So that's when they came back and they said, hey, there was some miscoding of long-term receivables. There were lease payments that got applied to the wrong vendors in QuickBooks. And so they had some issues with that, which I can understand. And so again, our recommendation and our plan of action is that we do regular reconciliations. Along with this is the Government Accounting Standards Board has issued a new requirement for leases that you have to report them in a different way. And so this is actually causing us to do additional work on leases annually anyways. We're looking at the leases that we have to set them up as lease assets. We also have to set up a receivable for those leases as well. And we'll be comparing the information, doing a present value calculation to make those match the standards that are going forward. And so that'll be another thing that's reconciled annually before the audits occur to make sure that that information is correct. Are there any additional questions on that one?
You've already checked all this out. Yeah. Okay.
He explained it and we asked questions.
Okay, so the next one is the accounting records. Again, this one was pretty much, they came out, they wanted to do their audit and not all the information was there and present for them to understand everything that was going on and be able to continue their audit and get it completed. And so really this is a thing saying, hey, we need you to have things done on time so we can actually issue a financial report in the time that should be, which for the state of Oregon, it's by December 31 of the year after your year end. And so that's where our goal this year is, that we're going to do the 22 and 23 audits concurrently. They're coming out, like you said, next week. They're going to start on that. They're going to take a week to do another audit, and then there's going to be a second week that they're working on it. I don't know that they'll be in Cascade Locks that week, or if they'll just be working remotely on that. But the idea is to get them all the information they need to do 2 years worth of audits by pretty much that second week in April. And then from there, they'll take that information, they'll draft some financial statements. They'll continue to ask any questions that they have as they're going through that. And my hope is that by June, the end of June, we can hopefully issue both sets of financial statements. Now, as you can see, the last ones have taken over about 9 months to actually get issued. So it's really going to be based on whether or not the auditors have the capacity to get that done in that time frame. But we should have everything ready for them in the timeframes that we've already specified, so that they're not waiting on the port to get any information to complete those audits. And then the hope is we then move into the current audit, which is for the year ended 6/30/2024. So clearly the year hasn't ended yet, so we wouldn't expect that to be done until after that time frame. And then hopefully have that report issued by December 31 of 2024. If we do that, we're back on track. Everything's back to where it should be. And we continue to move forward, and should be good in that area. So that kind of covers number 2 of the significant deficiencies. And then number 3 is the accuracy and recording of financial information. So again, this kind of relates back. There were 18 adjusting journal entries, and that 18 includes some of the ones that Marina and Company proposed after we came in and started working on this. And so from them getting a trial balance to them being able to issue, there were 18 journal entries that needed to be made. So again, that's one area where Marina and Company coming in, we're reviewing the information, we're preparing the different areas of the audit so that we can make those journal entries or have the information for them to begin with, so they don't have to make those journal entries after we provide them the information. And so we said that that was implemented in March of 2023 when we started. Do you guys have any questions on any of those or any other parts of the financial stuff that I can answer for you right now?
Yeah, I have one question regarding the one material weakness. Do you have examples of the misstatement of capital assets?
I mean, I could probably go back and grab some specifics. Are you wanting like a specific example?
Is it just when you're talking about capital assets, just taking inventory of real machinery and whatever else our assets are, or?
Yeah, so for a municipality, the capital assets that you guys have are land, buildings, and improvements. You guys have a bridge that you capitalize as a separate asset. You have a vessel. You have other equipment. So your trucks and any type of equipment that you guys have for the parks usually go in that area. So what they were saying is they came in and there were a lot of things listed on there, but it didn't match what the listing was last year. So at some point there was some confusion between what was given to the auditors last year and maybe the items that they saw that they said needed to be added to that listing with what actually ended up staying on that listing. And so what I ended up having to do is I took the list that the auditors had in their records, and then I took the list that I got from Melissa and I went through line by line and identified the areas that didn't match, and then figured out why they didn't match, whether it was, hey, this got posted in the wrong period, or hey, this is something that they said got deleted and we need to delete that off of our listing. And so we went through that process. We identified some additional ones that needed to be added. And so we added those. And so if you guys, let's see if I can quickly find it. On page, okay, so page 45 of your packet. This is one of the note disclosures in the financial statements. And what this does is it gives you a high level overview of the capital assets for the port. And so it will show you land, construction in progress, land improvements, buildings and improvements, bridge, vessel, construction equipment, and office equipment. And then it shows you accumulated depreciation for the things that are depreciated. So that's kind of that bottom section, the land improvements, buildings and improvements, bridge, vessel, construction equipment, and office equipment. And so they had this in the prior year. And so what we also have is we have an asset listing that breaks it out into these categories as well. And it'll have, 10, 15, I think up to 30 or 40 items. And all of those things should add up to match kind of what's on here. And those things weren't matching. And so that's kind of what we went back through and identified why they weren't matching and then making those corrections to make sure they matched.
Okay, and I guess for the reason for this type of deficiency, do you think it's related to the building of Flex 6 and just introducing new accounting reporting for a project like that?
I don't think it really had much to do with Flex 6 and adding that. I think this is probably just an area that the port struggled with how to report. I don't think this was something that Melissa was the one that was really responsible for. And so when she kind of got this all put on her, she was like, I think I'm doing it the right way, but I'm not necessarily sure. And so we worked together to kind of go through those items and identify, okay, what were the things that you added and where were they? And so I think us just being there to help Melissa go through and really understand it is really what's helped Melissa kind of get more ready in this area. And then it's something that I still work with her and I say, hey, I've reviewed these things. Here are the asset additions that I think we need to have for this year. And then she's looking over those because she's paying the invoices. She's going through those more on a day-to-day basis. And she can say, oh, okay, this one was actually completed. So if we had something listed in construction in progress, but she's like, we actually finished that project, she's helping me realize, oh, that needs to move out of the construction in progress and it needs to be added into whichever category that item would then go in.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
To go back to number 2A, significant deficiencies in this coding of long-term receivables. The effect is obviously missing out on collections. Do we have a number on that? Did we miss out on anything? Or is there anything we need to figure out?
I think that, go ahead.
There wasn't anything we missed out on. I think what happened is they kind of looked at that and it was, it's not like we weren't recording the receivables. It just got posted to the wrong person. And so when we identified that, we moved it to the right person and made sure that those were correct. And so that was something that we're like, okay, we need to look at these on a yearly basis. We need to make sure, hey, are they paying quarterly? Are they paying monthly? How many payments did we have for that? Does it match the agreement that we have with them? Yes. Okay, check that off. Make sure that it's in there correctly.
And some of that had to do with some of the inconsistency of some of our long-term debtors on land, isn't that right? With
Potentially in 2021, and to be fair, I didn't go back and research each one of these because they were in 2021. So there's a certain amount that I'm looking forward on most of these. And he would give me calls and be like, hey, do we still have that one printer? And it's like, no, we haven't had that printer for 3 years. So you're going back to try to find things from 3 years ago. And you're like, he's like, 'cause that wasn't reflected, or that wasn't, you're like, I can't solve that problem because it's a 3 year ago problem, but now I can see that it is a problem. We'll make sure we don't do it going
Make sure we
forward.
don't do
So
it.
I'm not sure what it was specifically at that point in time that led to that, but
Okay.
I think the other thing to remember, 2020, 21 was when COVID was. And I think there were a lot of agreements and, hey, we're gonna let things slide for a little bit. And so that caused some of that confusion as well when you're looking at the receivable portion.
That makes sense, yeah,
there's certainly,
because we did have some deferred payments and stuff from some of our, lessees.
Well, you guys are the solve for 3 of our 4 issues, so. All right, hopefully,
Job security,
nothing ever comes up again.
That's the hope.
all right, so do we, anything
Thank you for
else?
spending time with Rob and me too.
Oh, absolutely.
and we'll see what time allows for the finance subcommittee, but I think it's something that we continue with. I mean, the more that a certain number of commissioners can take a little bit of time to pour themselves into this, like, it's not an easy lift to understand governmental accounting and to try to catch up on what was happening 3 years ago. I mean, part of this becomes so much slicker when the audit for the year you were just in is happening, right? You ask your question, you go, oh yeah, I remember that, we did this thing and write it all. So 3 years back is tough, so it's a heavy lift, but I think if we keep continuing to meet, like, at some point in time, we'll have quasi perfect, or at least quasi experts on governmental accounting.
1 year back is hard enough on personal taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you could give me pointers on balancing my checkbook. Thanks a lot.
It's a lot of, Matt, this is what we did, and him being like, okay, that's fine, but you can't put it in the books like that, you know, he's like, it has to go here, here, and here, and we go, oh, okay, that makes sense, yeah, right, so, Matt making sure that, just that everything's transparent and that we're doing it correctly and following all the accounting procedures that he says, but they didn't see any fraud, they didn't see any misspending, they didn't see anything that sort of came up during that time period as something that needed to be discussed or looked at. As far as an audit that's 3 years back during COVID and in a huge transition period for the board, a little expected.
Right.
All right,
Are there any motions or anything?
We
needed
do,
for
we're gonna
this?
need to adopt a resolution. So the resolution is our action plan, going to the Secretary of State saying, we've been made aware of this, and this is the action plan on how to correct it, and we're going to do that. So we need a motion to,
I mean, it looks like we're already adopting,
we are
a lot of that's already been in process for a year.
We are jumping through, and as we said, I might have you guys come back and have to do another action plan when we get through 23 and 24, because they find something new, and we'll jump through that loop. And at some point in time, we'll have this all cleaned up.
And this is for resolution 2024-1.
That's correct.
Then I guess I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2024-1, a resolution approving the plan of action from the fiscal year ended June 30, 2021, financial statement audit.
I'll second that motion.
okay, we have a second, motion and a second to adopt resolution 2024-1. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. We're good to go.
Thank you, Matt, and we will see you next week. You're coming down too, right?
I will be there on Tuesday. Yep. And
Perfect.
always happy to answer any questions if anybody has them. So
Thank you much.
Thanks, Matt.
Appreciate it, we appreciate it.
thanks, guys.
Alrighty,
Do we need, is there a printout of this that we need to sign?
Yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah, it'll be on the back.
There's you and Albert need to sign this part.
Well, I don't have a printed one.
No.
just scribble right on your board.
Gotcha. Sign it.
All right,
Big one.
okay, Parker Nelson, you're up. Increased rates for the campground.
And I think that versus having a presentation, you're more than welcome, Parker. I'm sure we'll put you in the spotlight.
Yeah.
Barry, thank you. I'll give you a call.
Yes,
please, come on.
So I think more than a presentation, I want to continue with the conversation that we had last week. and get a little bit more feedback from you guys. I wanted to bring you a little bit more information than I have tonight. We had a fairly busy week with a moving of a bridge and a moving of a boat, et cetera, et cetera. I almost took it off the agenda, but I think it's a good conversation for us to sort of continue with. We went out and looked at some additional campgrounds. Carrie also sent us over some that she did as well. She's got as many as we did. So looking at additional campgrounds, comparing them to the amenities that each one has, what their pricing is. And I don't know that we can sit here and look at this today as a group and then go, you know what the magic number is, it's 65 or it's 55. But I think we can have a good sort of conversation about whether or not, a good conversation on where we see the campground fitting in sort of a service that we provide, or more as in something that drives revenue for the port, and whether that's how we view it completely, either as a revenue driver or as a service that we provide, or somewhere in between. And so I think that's a good conversation piece. I think it's a good conversation piece for us to talk a little bit some of the other campgrounds that are in the area, the things that they provide versus what we provide. We also invited Laurel tonight. I don't know how many of you all met Laurel or are aware that she is our camp host down at the park. But great. So I also thought that she would be able to provide some good feedback to the experience that she's having with customers down there. What kind of things they're saying about their park, why they like our park, why they don't like our park, why they continue to come back year after year, why this is their first visit or their last visit. So I think these are all good things that we can do to talk a little bit more just about camping and how we do it. If we look over at the side here, we can go through it sort of piece by piece. We can also talk about what Laurel's hearing, because I know that was some of the feedback of, I mean, I'm more like Carrie. When I go camping, I want to be deep in the woods, and I want a fire, and I want pine cones, and I want it to smell a certain way, and look, that's the kind of camping that I like. That's not the campers that we get, right? And so, I think maybe getting Laurel's feedback a little bit on what your experiences is with the campground, who comes and sees us, who spends the most time, who's like, Laurel, I'm never coming back, but it was nice to meet you. You want to give some feedback on just what it's like to be the camp host there and engaging with our customers?
I love the campground. And one of the reasons I love the campground is because my campers love the campground. They're not deep woods campers. We get a lot of people in RVs. They're kind of, not really glamping, but they also don't want to rough it. So one of the things they love about the campground is they can pull in, they hook up, and then they can walk wherever they want to go. The store is 10 minutes away. They can go down to the Sternwheeler. Many of them are looking forward to the restaurant coming in down by the Sternwheeler. I call them kind of urban campers, because that's really what they're looking for. They want the experience of being downtown. They want to be able to go with buddies. They want to be able to go to TIB. A lot of them come for events that we have. Well, obviously everybody knows PCT days, we're manic. I've had complaints about PCT days from people who weren't informed. And so this year, and then I have people who have made reservations during PCT days. We're usually pretty booked for that period of time, and I can't get trail angels in, and I can't get event personnel who want to camp, and I can't get that. So this year, for the first time, we blocked out those days, and they're just open to people who are associated with that event. We try to be as responsive as we can when campers have a concern or a problem. For the most part, people have been coming for a really long time. They do think we're very inexpensive for what they get. I don't have any complaints about the price, ever. I get people who wish that we had showers and restrooms off peak season. I get people who wish that we allowed fire pits, which we don't, but we do have propane rings, and they're pretty amenable to the idea that one of the reasons is because of the big fire. That's what I explain it as, is that, you know, we are still concerned about starting a big fire down there, and people are very happy to have their little propane tanks and everything else. We have a higher end camper, I think, than a lot of places. One of my concerns is that when with our prices being so low, Particularly in the winter when the 10 camping sites are $21 and sites 5 through 12 are 26. It's cheaper. It's the cheapest rent you can get if you're a homeless person who's living in a tent or living in a trailer. And this year we have not had a problem, but last year we did, with people showing up, writing checks that bounce. Then us literally having to like threaten a trespass to get them out of the park, and then having to help them get out of the park. I see that as a real problem, because I just recently worked with a camper who we actually had for a month. He was great. He's a musician. He wants to move here, but he had no place to go. And his concern about, because we don't offer long-term camping, his concern was Lewis and Clark campground was too expensive. And I feel that they do offer long-term. He needed an RV spot, but for him, 74 was too much. So he chose us instead. And then we had many negotiations about extending his stay so he could find a place and move. What's it like? It's just a quiet little community. What we offer, we're one of the only campgrounds that is right on the river with a beautiful view of the river. Most of my campers love to sit on the ridge and watch. They watch people fishing, they watch the stern wheeler go up and down, they watch the trains cross the river. It's a very restful place to be. And then when they're done for the day, they skip and hop up to Eastwind, get an ice cream cone, or go to TIB. Many of them will be coming into fishing season soon, so I'll have a lot of people who come with their boats to fish, because it's right there. Everything for them is really convenient. If they want to go sailing, they want to go outrigger canoeing with the canoe club, they can. Summers, we've been encouraging a lot of people to do community sailing night and make them aware of it. This year, one of the things that I'm putting together is a guest guide, an online guest guide that will list all the events, all the attractions. There'll be a business directory, and there's a QR code. So you click on that and it'll take you right to that. And because I can't remember everything.
Yeah.
And people are, we get multiple day stays, usually 2 to 3 days. Weekends, of course, are the most packed, but any event, we get full really fast because we really only have 15 sites available. It's kind of an exclusive little intimate space to be in, and people know that. And it's one of the things they really like about our campground is that they're not surrounded by 100 other RVs.
Right.
They're not sharing facilities with, 200 other people. We're doing great. I think reservations are great for the summer already. We're sold out for the week of July 4th. We're starting to fill up everywhere. Our weekends are, I just tried to find 2 sites side by side for someone who wanted for 3 days, and I couldn't find anything till August.
So we suspended the use of, people being able to use checks, and they can only, because that, I think we should. If they can't use a credit card, they can't use a debit card or some other means where it comes out of their account.
I proposed that, it hasn't been approved yet. I discourage it.
Yeah. Okay.
For exactly that reason. We don't find out till.
Because there's no recourse if check bounces. You can't get it out of there, and you can't get paid.
Correct.
So, most people use credit cards these days or some other means. Very few people write checks. I don't think you can hardly go to the grocery store and write a check these days, can you? So I think most places have discontinued for good reason.
Right, and there's a good reason. For
Checks
it.
bounce, credit cards,
One of
credit cards can't.
the complaints last year was that it was difficult. We didn't have a way for people who showed up on the day that, like, we have a walk-in, call them a walk-in. Someone who didn't have a reservation, they show up and they want to pay by credit card, and it's after camp host hours. They couldn't pay before.
Is there a possibility for us to get one of those portable things like everybody uses these days, like the like the restaurant or whatever.
Yes,
If camp folks could have their little thing and you could go, okay.
Yeah, just like this.
Let me, they run square
You can
or
do it
some
through
other.
a QR code as well. It doesn't even have to be a digital
What
tablet.
I was gonna say is I just completed an overhaul of the flybook system. So that people can come, there's a QR code, they can scan it and they're allowed to check in, register, pay. Up to 11 PM of the day that they arrive. And that's been in place for almost 2 weeks now, and overwhelmingly, people prefer to do that than even like fill out the envelope and put it in the post.
Yeah.
So
In the car.
I'm hoping, and also when they go online, that $10 processing fee is automatically added, so so we're not only getting the full price for the site. Know that we have the money in hand, they're also paying a $10 processing fee, which covers our costs. In terms of, we lose money every time we do, like, we have to give money to the credit card company. I think on both ends. Through Flybook.
Pay a lot of money for credit cards.
Yeah, and then we also, out of that comes taxes. And that money, one of the things I did want to point out is that no matter what we charge, a percentage of that comes back to the city of Cascade Locks in the form of tourism dollars.
Tourism.
7.5.
I have a question about,
It's 8%, so if you increase it, it's an increase also in the amount of money that the city has to spend on its own tourism activity.
I have a question, over for the campground, is there signage about, if RV tenants get covered parking throughout the whole park during their stay? Because yesterday I had an RV person come through and they were wondering if they still have to pay for parking if they have a reservation.
Oh, good question.
You know, it's
I don't think we've ever gotten
it's
that.
the oversight that
that's a good
we never
question.
talked about.
Well, actually, there is a policy in place and they do get free parking throughout the park for the duration of their reservation.
How do they, yeah, they do
They
that.
have a receipt.
Oh, receipt, okay.
They
That's
have
the part I
either
was
a
missing.
paper receipt or they can show you on their phone, their
Okay.
receipt.
And then I guess the other thing is, do you ever get people asking about getting a Northwest Forest Pass or a fishing, like a day fishing license?
Yeah, all the
Would it
time.
be, would it be helpful if we serviced that as opposed to Columbia Market?
Well, you can get your fishing license online, so there's a link, you can do that, it's the fastest and easiest way to get one.
That's the way most. folks do.
One of the things I wanna start promoting is,
Oh, yeah. Are you gonna tell us about our camp store? Oh,
no.
okay.
That's very
Yes.
Jeremiah's thing.
For now.
No, I want to start promoting, free fishing days.
Yep.
I wanna have, as I get all the administrative accounting, signage, everything all straightened out, it leaves me time to do things like, hey, free fishing days, there's 3 of them a year. And can I get REI or Cabela's to come out with their little portable setup and make it more of an event? Get more people to come in for free fishing days. They do portable trout fishing tanks for kids. There's a lot of great things that I could be doing for a free fishing weekend. And things like that, like we wanna start promoting things like that. Jeremiah and I have been in discussions for quite a while now about different ways we could use the campground, particularly during off-peak season.
Who wouldn't love that? Shooting fish in a barrel days.
Yeah, well, and you know, we have what is it? The bounty. The pike minnow.
Like minnow bounty,
Yeah,
it's up to almost $10 a fish.
Yeah, we have people that come and regularly fish and make $30,000 to $40,000 on bounty.
holy smokes.
Yeah,
Pay for my wedding ring.
Do you have, do you also have any perspective of what it's like when you're at full capacity, what are kind of the pain points you deal with? Like if we do move towards a revenue generating pricing and you're gonna see more of the spots filled up, what are the issues that you usually run into?
well. We really don't have that many issues at the campground. During the biggest problem we had was during PCT days where I have the campground, the park is overrun with hikers. We're the only shower facilities. So if I have campers who are part of PCT days, they're less tolerant of the fact that there's a line of campers waiting to get into the showers. The campers are usually very, like, if I go up and talk to them and say, hey, I've got campers, can you let them go first? They're always like, oh, yeah, sure, no problem.
Right.
They get loud. The music will drive people crazy because you can hear it thumping in the campground. I occasionally get complaints about the train, but well, there's really nothing we can do about the train. We do try to make people aware that no matter where you camp on the gorge, you're gonna hear not only the train on the side you're on, but you're gonna hear the train across the
I know a place we can rent some really sleepy, restrooms. Do they have showers in them too?
Yes, they do.
I think maybe that would be a solution during PCT days where we have so many, tent campers. You bring out a couple of those that have additional shower.
I believe
Shower
we
set.
suggested that to PCT days, but it's something we could look at for our own, as our own.
And the other thing
action.
we looked at is Jeanette has talked to the school, and then for $25 a day, someone could run a concession and use the showers at the school and we charge $5 at the campground, so you could charge whatever.
And we're about to have more showers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Not until
Those
fall.
will be
It'll
cold.
be past CBT, but
In the prayer.
yeah.
I hope that will help lighten our load, especially in peak season.
Yeah, I think
There's also-
I'm in favor of PCT hikers getting showers.
Yeah,
Yeah, we all
Very much so.
And they probably would like to. I have a question. Does anybody ask about dumping or gray water dumping in seven?
They do, and I'm trying to come up with a sign about, well, I get lots of questions about, man, we are watering all the time. So what are we doing to conserve water? And I talked to Captain Tom about wanting to, he has a really great spiel about how we water. And I said, I just want you to tell me it again, so I can write it down and post it. Because we do have a sort of, I would say, upper middle classes to lower upper class is where our campers are. We have a lot of sprinter vans. And these are people who tend to be a little more sensitive to environmental issues and water conservation. And I have to tell them every time it's river water. Please don't let your kids run through it unless you're prepared for that, because kids will run through the sprinklers and parents are like, oh. And we're recycling it, and it's really good for the soil and it's good for the water that's going back into the river.
We're talking about a dump station here.
Yeah.
Okay,
but I
so
was
we,
actually-
so we also do have a dump station, that comes with your camping,
Yes.
right? So it's included in your camping price.
Yeah.
We offer it to, travelers who are passing through and need to dump. It's at $7. That's a little bit low, and maybe something we'll talk about in the future if that's something we want to keep up or not. I know KOA no longer allows people to just, if you're staying there, you can dump there, but you can't just be passing through and say, hey, I need to.
You can go across the bridge to, there's one at Skamania County Fairgrounds, it's $5, but you do have to pay a toll to go across the bridge.
Okay.
We're $7, and the one in Hood River, I don't remember how much that one is.
It's more expensive than we are because my friend comes here from the river to dump his trailer when we're open.
I know that in the winter we close, just because the plumbing is too close to the surface, so, and then it just reopened today, thankfully, I'm very happy. I'm always happy when the restrooms and the RV done.
We were trying to see if we could get a zip code report for you guys to show, where our visitors coming from. We're not quite there yet, but Laura, you could maybe talk a little bit about anecdotally about the visitors.
We get people from all over the country, and we get people from all over the world. It's really an exciting thing. I just had someone actually come in from Hawaii. They rented an RVs across America thing, and they came and they were telling me, how much they love it here. And these are people from Hawaii, and I'm thinking, wow, people from Alaska, people from all over. I just had a guy this morning who came from Mississippi, and he loves it here. PCT Days expands that, because I get people from all over Asia. It's prompted me to look at finding ways to translate some of our instructions into different languages. So that, because there is some confusion sometimes, although most of the people who come through are fairly good with English, and if they're not, there's usually another type who can act as an interpreter. the hikers coming in, they're a very international group. And really exciting, people from Australia, New Zealand, and last year, 2 people from Tibet. We have people from France, Germany, England, Spain, Portugal. I'm hoping this year, if I can set up a hiker station, I want a world map of pins that people can put into.
That'd be fun.
I think it would be fun, and also and for regular campers who are in the main campground as well. So people get a sense of where everybody's from. One of the things that by doing the online registration data, we do if people pay with credit cards, we do capture their zip codes. And I just have to be able to figure out how to get that
Export,
information
yeah.
out of life.
We're looking at it.
Yeah, we pulled up some little widget today that they have on the back end that's supposed to take it and put it on the map. And it was having an error code, like something just wasn't working with that, so.
You'll get a report that's completely blank, there's just nothing.
Yeah, it seems like there's a glitch there or something. But I think we can get you that information.
Yeah, it's very broad. We get people from Oregon and Washington, particularly during spring break. We're starting to see that right now. We had a full campground this weekend, pretty full. And then as we move into the summer, but I would say it's happening now. Either Oregon, Washington, or around the country. Yeah.
Another,
Now that we're, sorry, we're trying to jump. So now that we are moving into basically the spring break, shoulder season, moving into obviously summertime. PCT days aside, would you say what kind of capacity are we generally at?
Weekends were almost always full. We may have 1 or 2 spaces left. They're the spaces that don't have power and water, 13 and 14. 15 does have power 110, and if people know about that, they'll check into those before they'll check into 13 or 14. Then we have Mondays and Thursdays are the next busiest days, or we're probably 3/4 full. Midweek, it just depends. It just depends. There are days where weather's nice, and for some reason people want to drop by, and by 2 o'clock I have to go and change the sign. I have 5 spaces or 6 spaces left, and by 2 o'clock I have to go and put the sign to say that we're full.
Something that I think as you're getting to capacity, one thing to point out is that we don't advertise this park.
And
We're not on the internet, it's a good place to stay, like the internet will find us and say, oh, buried in this page, there's a park, it says that there's some stuff and looks like a campground. But we're certainly not trying to get in front of customers, not that we couldn't, not that, I mean, Laurel tells me all the time that we could be pushing the park in a much more aggressive way to increase capacity in it. But we don't. We don't.
We're one of the only campgrounds open in the winter
That's right.
around
yeah,
here.
we are the only one open in the winter. And even then this winter, if we get a bad snowstorm, which is when people want to actually pull off, we can't have them in the campground because there's no way to plow. There's no way for people to get into the campground park. So Parker and I talked this year about direct them to one pot, just park on the street.
Right, well,
So you can get out again.
yeah.
I guess another idea I was thinking, because we have that high volume of tent camping during PCT days, you can't secure your items. I think the port should look into maybe having rent a locker system where you pay like $5 a day and we'll lock your valuables for you. You know, you can have
I've
a,
not had any problem.
you know, I don't know if it's a common request when people say, hey, where can we secure stuff?
No, I've not had anyone steal anyone's stuff from Marine Park. I've had them steal them when they stayed up at the Best Western.
Okay.
And they put their backpack down on the ground and talked to a friend, they turned around, it was gone. And they was said, I'm coming back to the campground and sit for here. Because they're surrounded by other hikers,
Right.
it's always
It's
full, yeah.
Do you guys,
People are really watching out for each other.
do you have any other common questions they ask for, like services or?
They want a charging station, and I've been talking to Parker about possibly putting in an exterior outlet on the side of the port office building. And setting up a charging station. Last summer, because it was such a big demand, I set up one at my trailer. And then ended up buying like several extra outlet things and USB plugins, and at one point it was so full that nobody could charge.
Oh, you're talking about phone chargers.
Yeah.
Oh, that's talking car chargers. You got 5 cars.
They charge phones, they charge GPS, they charge
I was thinking electric
their
cars.
tablets.
Okay.
I mean, you can get, on Amazon, you can buy these little solar panels that can charge your cell phone. They're about this big and they're only like 20
Some
bucks,
people come in with them.
you know?
Some of the hikers come in with them, and then I have 2 camp chairs that are available for hikers to take down any one of the power posts that are on the water, on the seawall.
Mhm.
And they can sit there and charge, and that was quite a popular feature last year. I think almost every day.
That's
creative.
You guys also have like first aid kits on site in case there's an emergency or something.
Yeah, and as I pointed out to you, the defibrillators in the port office if they need it. And we also, and I also carry Narcan and know how to use it. We haven't had an issue at all with it, with the cameras.
Do you have returning campers? So if we did increase, I mean, I know what I have ideas about the increase, but say the commission voted to increase it from 40 to 70 something, and we have regular people, do you know people?
The more
that
you
come
increase
to-
it, the more of our regulars you'll probably lose. But I do feel that most of our campers will tolerate an increase of 10 to 20, maybe even 30 at peak summer. Particularly around July 4th.
Is it percent or dollars? 10, 20, 30%?
Dollar.
Dollars. Okay.
So stay put, because I think you continue to add to this conversation, but yes, let's keep advancing it forward, because that's what we're talking about, right, is the price increase. But I think this was a better way to start than at the previous meeting, which was like, by the way, we should increase pricing, right? Let's talk about our campground, how much it's loved, how much passion there actually is behind it, how many ideas get floated around all the time and ways to improve upon it. And this is things that people like about it. I think it's a better start to that sort of discussion. A couple of things that I just notated about our campground. One, you get the dump station built into it. Another thing that you get is up to 8 campers. So most of the pricing that you see when you go out and do comparisons with ours, you start adding, well, I'm gonna bring 2 kids, and that's plus $5 to $8 per person. For us, it's $75 flat, so you can bring up to 8 people with you. And we do see some larger campers who take advantage of that. So when we start to do some of these apples to apples comparisons, it becomes very, very difficult. It also becomes very sort of like, what kind of camper am I and what's important to me? I wanted to bring back some financials a little bit on the campground. That's something we're still working on. Matt spoke to it today. Me and Genevieve kind of talked about it before we came in. The campground is profitable, and my decision to bring this to you and say, we should probably move this to market price wasn't to increase revenue in a way that maybe helps solve some of the port issues. It's not going to make enough money to solve some of the bigger issues that we have in front of us around diversifying from bridge tolls. Now, with the new campground that we've talked about, potentially strategic business plan that ends up somewhere else in town, potentially that could, right? So I'm glad that we're thinking about how we want to price this stuff before we even sort of go down that path. It is profitable. I'm gonna conservatively say this year, based on my knowledge of the campground, based on previous years, based that I didn't do a capital outlay for improvements in the campground. I did set aside $100,000 this year to do improvements in the campground, but because our accounting is still sort of being worked out, I cut back on a lot of my spending. So on the budget, we showed that we're gonna finish negative this year in the campground. We brought that up. You're like, campground doesn't make money. I was like, it does. It wasn't this year because it's gonna spend $100,000 to do some improvements. Some of the improvements were gonna be, I was thinking about paving that. I was thinking about upgrading all the outlets from instead of 20, 30 amps to 50 amps. Those are all things that would have driven, that I would have wanted to drive price. But when I came to you and said, hey, we should increase pricing, it was more just out of the market, right? This is just sort of what the market is showing. But again, it starts a better conversation of how do you guys view camping? Is it a service that we provide? And if that service that it brings people to town and they spend some more money with us and they hang out and they tell their friends, and it's this economic development driver through tourism, which is something this commission absolutely values.
But if we can do both,
If we can do both, it's even better. And then you look at what I just told Albert, which was, and there's a $500 per promotion and advertising on here that you got into the budget at the budget committee, we don't advertise, right? So that's not the only way to drive revenue is by increasing pricing. But we do have to take sort of a more active role in some of the stuff that Laurel's recommending. Previously, the campground has always been sort of set and forget it. It just doesn't make a ton of money, but it makes money, and it doesn't require a lot of effort, and we keep it green, we keep it beautiful, we make sure people come and go. The amenities that we have are a good deal, right? But it was just one of those things we didn't revisit that often. So that's sort of where that gets budget season. So we start to look at what's my revenue gonna be? And if it's gonna be more for next year, I need to make that price increase. You guys gotta go through that steps. That is something that we will probably start doing yearly. We'll come back and look at all of our fees and maybe get a schedule on how much we increase that goes with cost of living versus taking these big long breaks and have to do jumps like this, because those are.
It may not help the entire port as far as, diversifying our income stream, but it will help the campground because then it will give us more money to invest into some of those things that we're talking about that we want to do in the campground to make the experience better, to put lockers in, which might be a great addition. I mean, like I said, if people are tent camping, people who feel insecure about leaving things in their tent, you could do a big thing where you had a locker system,
If you do have a locker system, you could also even look at Amazon partners with locker businesses, and Amazon lockers are very popular.
Amazon lockers kill it.
It's a lot of the traffic. I know Columbia Market's not interested in getting it. It's the only reasonable place I can think that could have one. But if you have one in the park, that might be a good opportunity. The other thing is if you upgrade 50 amps on electrical, you're talking about EV charging. You could maybe during the off season have people charge their cars and look at the scenic river, all this other
A
stuff.
lot of those rigs that take 50 amps can't even fit under our bridge though.
It's true, there are
RVs,
some
yeah,
RVs
like the
that
big
do not.
buses.
That's true.
Some of the big buses maybe, we get ACL buses in there, but yes, there are a lot of you, I mean, it's written in bold letters in red on our camp website. So as you start to look at pricing and you go, okay, how do we get to a price, right? One of the easiest things and probably the most common one is you just go to the market and say, what does the market bear? And that's what we sort of did. What does the market bear? What are things here that you can compare and contrast to what we have, and where do we fit sort of within that? The other piece that was interesting is you can also start to get feedback from customers, right? And Oliver sent me a really interesting article about price, about taking sort of a data-driven approach to getting your pricing. And a lot of it was like, well, ask your customers, what is the value to this and this, and how much of this? And what you get back is a lot of people sort of lowballing that because they think that their answers are going to drive that price down. But there's, I had it written down, but Ben Westendorf, what the sort of the model is there is to ask them questions. And this is something that we could do through Laurel over this entire summer. And instead of just saying, well, what are the neighbors charging? Us get some actual data points from our customers that we can use to make maybe a more data-driven decision on where we're gonna price. It's not gonna happen this year. We need a year under our belt of asking people questions like, at what price would you start to see the campgrounds being the question the product's quality? At what point in time am I looking on my phone and going, I don't know, it's $35. Do you guys want to stop in Cascade Locks? Right? And people start to question it because it is priced so low. Do you think the product is a bargain? So there's different sort of ways that you can ask these questions. Hood River just did this when they were looking at tolling, right? If you look at the questions that they asked on the tolling survey, it was things like, how many trips would you avoid taking how many times would you go? So very specific stuff, not just like, what would you be willing to pay for a toll, right? You're never gonna get there, but if you can kind of understand people's thinkings and their patterns, we could take that data and bring it back in a way that we could make some more data-driven sort of decisions on how we got there. Right.
We're also set up for that now because they added, in addition to a confirmation that you made a reservation and a reminder that your reservation is coming up, is a 2 weeks after your stay with us, there's a follow-up. So thanks them for their stay and ask them for their input. And I started it because as part of the guest guide, I want to have a place where guests can post photographs and reviews. That's certainly something I could include in that, is to ask specific questions.
Where this port is also very blessed to be in a different position than we were with our camp hosts. Our previous camp hosts have been amazing people and done great things for the port, for the park, etc. But haven't necessarily had the marketing experience and the sales experience and some of the stuff that Laurel brings to the table. So for Brittany, it was a lot of like, set it and forget it, and that worked, because Brittany had a tremendous number of things that she was working on. It's sort of new to have somebody who comes into the campground and lives there year round, loves this thing to death, and is bringing you all these ideas of how that they can improve this campground. That's new for us. We haven't paid attention to it in that way before. So we're a little bit more set up than we have been previously to say, yeah, let's get some surveys. Let's figure out what people are willing to pay. Let's talk to them and say, if I had a kid, you know, well, if I brought in this amenity, would you be willing to pay more? I wouldn't have had the staff at previous times to probably drive that, but with Laurel, I do. So there is some more things that we can do before we come back here and say, let's raise the price.
Can we do a Port of Cascade Locks campground Facebook page? It's separate from the Port of Cascade Locks
Yeah,
Facebook page.
and there's been
So you get a kind of a group,
Yeah.
a group thing, kind of like a fan club sort of thing.
Well, definitely Instagram.
We're definitely talking about, this is going around right now, about both the campground and events, is separating them from the port's website. Campers and brides are very confused about where they are. Like, they get there and they're like, your economic, right, local government, and like, you start going to our website and they're like, I just wanna have a wedding, or I just wanna go camping, and you have to sort through a lot of stuff. So it would take that sort of looking at this as a business and saying, we're really gonna focus on this and try to drive revenue or improve the service that we're offering, either way, a combination of both. But I think we have some, in Laurel, I think we have somebody that can kind of oversee that and direct some of that.
Yeah.
And so that's exciting.
We already have the website done.
Yeah.
I created it for the guest guide and then just started expanding it, and so.
And I would say in general, ports aren't generally the first place people look when they're looking for a wedding
No.
or campground. for
And
that
also
matter,
by
or-
having our website, it allows me potentially to start using OTAs, which are like Vacasa or Expedia, or where we can advertise on there. They'll take a percentage, but it might be a really good thing to do for pretty off peak. And package with things like, stay with us and then take the cat bus up to Meadows for the day.
And this is certainly not a bad way for us to start getting our feet wet on any sort of other future business opportunities with campgrounds. We can learn at a really small scale, a really inexpensive scale, right? They're going 16, so I don't have to rent 250 or 150 or wherever else I'm thinking down the future. We can really learn a lot that might influence our decisions on if we build more campgrounds.
Mhm.
Another suggestion, maybe if it's legal to do, since we don't have real campfires, a safer option is maybe we could rent out campfire, like propane campfire things.
One of the things that I talked with Jeremiah about a lot is the idea of the port announcing entrepreneurial opportunities, where we say, we have campers who would love to rent out campfire rings. If you want to start a little business and get a vendor's license, come on down. And you buy 5 or 10 of them and you rent them out. And then I don't have to deal with it. The port doesn't have to deal with liability. It's all on the vendor.
You could also have a, paved area too for a food cart if we ever do have
Oh
something
my
like that.
God, yes.
Yeah.
That's in my plan, along with the.
Yeah,
But,
that's a great idea.
And just so you know, that we are so small. It gives us a chance to try things small at first, like this summer. One of the things that hikers always need is shampoo, hair conditioner, body wash, and towels. And so this summer for the port, I'm gonna, through my own business, I can sell those out of my trailer and track how many we sell. Is this something the port wants to offer? Do we want to expand those kind of things? We get to try it out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
So we wanted to have this conversation. I definitely wanted to add this piece of it to it, because I think it adds a layer that was missing at the last meeting, that was just like, hey, we need to increase pricing based on what the neighbors are doing. I don't know yet that you guys, again, I almost took it off the agenda because it came later. But you can sort of look through here and see some of the amenities that other campgrounds offer, where their pricing is at. Apples to apples is tough, but I think it's something that we can potentially revisit. It's also something that you guys can move forward now and say, no, let's hammer this out. Let's start finding a price. We could say, let's table this until we have more information after a season where we do some of these survey questions and really figure out why people come here, where they're coming from. Are they coming back again? How much would they spend? I think you always have all those options available to you, but I want to make sure that you know you have all those options available to you and we're ready to go any direction, right?
There's one category that I think would help me understand more, because I don't know where all of these are.
Sure.
I'd like to know the draw of it, so like our.
Carrie
draw-
did that on her, and I think that I want to draw attention to that. Carrie, the ones on the back, there's a front side and back side, or back side and front side. Carrie did some work on that, and that was something I thought she had was good, was, is it near a lake or a riverfront? So what is specifically,
Mount, I mean,
right, what's the draw? But I think that, I thought that was good, and I was, so good, why, and why?
Riverfront actual sites
Yeah.
where you can walk into the water, lakefront sites where you can walk into the water and like
Yeah.
be on the beach, basically, and some of them were just near water where you might have a view like us.
And then there's also your camper who's like, what's it near? And you're like, nothing, and they're like, that's exactly what I want. That's the draw, right?
Or old growth forest,
say-
or, you know, I mean, what is the draw?
I only had a time to pull 11 campgrounds today, so I spent about an hour on it, but, the average for RV sites, and about 50% of them include sewer, which is kind of a big deal, having a sewer hookup, because nobody likes to actually have to deal with dump sites, because they're not pretty, they're not fun. So having a sewer is a lot easier and cleaner to manage for the camper themselves. But the average cost was about $54 for an RV site with sewer hookups. The ones with, the ones that were higher priced had like swimming pools and were like tiny houses and yurts and stuff. So these were like full hookup 50 amp sites and access to swimming pool and gym and a store and a clubhouse, you know, like fancy, and that was like $94. That was the highest one I found. And at $94, and that was in peak season, like July, you know, I was pretending to make reservations at different times of the year to see how the prices change, because not everybody advertises their rates, which is why it takes so long
Okay,
to
so long, good.
get
And
this
then when you figured,
information.
and then so we got all the information, then we figured out that if you add additional people to your group,
Mhm.
that some people charge for that and some don't. And so
Well,
we were taking some that
the
were,
information about how much showers cost and all of
right,
that.
sometimes it's free, sometimes it's
It's
not.
crazy.
It's really hard to get this
Very-
information, so that's why I'm looking for
Doing.
I got some feedback from, I happened to be having lunch at Ale House, and the operator for the KOA came
Yeah.
in. Just straight up asked him, I said, how much do you think is a good rate for our campground? So we have that sort of information that we can work from, if that's something that we're interested in. I think there's a lot of ways for us to sort of get there, that doesn't necessarily have to be, hey, we've missed an increase for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Let's do it all at once. But again, it sort of falls to you on the direction that you want to go, or we can go and get more information on it. We can take different routes through advertising, through implementing some of the stuff Laurel's talking about. I know that if I would have done that $100,000 upgrade this year, I would certainly be here talking to you guys about like, hey, we paved it, we put new amperage in. That was all done to draw more people and to increase the price. Because we didn't do those things, it's the campground has always been, we're kind of in the same place that we've always been.
Well, and I'm worried that we're not even like sold out 100% of the time during the summer yet. So what's gonna happen when we increase our prices? We're not even, you know,
The
meeting.
Caraway isn't either.
Yeah.
And
Well,
none of the
because
state
they're
parks are,
pretty high price too.
and none of the state parks are, not midweek. Everybody's really booked on weekends.
And something else that we did, and I didn't bring it here, specifically, but we looked at the number of rooms. Rob's done that before. It's in the neighborhood of 120. We started looking at what pricing at the hotels are around here. I don't know if you've had family come and stay, but they're always like gold. If they don't have a place to stay, it's expensive, right? So and even Cascade Inn is expensive. Like they're all like during the summer, we're really, if you want to be overnight in Cascade Locks, your options are fairly limited. And especially for something that's under whatever, 40, 75, 50, wherever you guys want to land on.
Question, do our campsites hold or have room for extra vehicles? So if somebody comes with a tent and they have 2 vehicles?
Oh,
Cause maybe that's do we charge for those extra vehicles
We
now?
can charge for the extra vehicles.
But we
that
don't right now.
We have been,
Okay.
and it's a source of, if people complain about it, because from their perspective, they rented this pad it's on their site.
Well, it's
and-
pretty common practice for people to charge for extra vehicles. I was like, if we're not, maybe that's a source that we can look at,
Really,
charging for.
it's really up, it's right now, last year, it's always been like sort of up to the campground host. Do you wanna charge them, do you not wanna charge?
I think it needs to be a set.
Well, if you don't
policy.
charge for extra people, but, you know, I mean. Extra people oftentimes come with extra cars, so you should charge something because it takes up,
Right.
a car takes up a lot more space than a person does.
We don't have.
So if you got,
I would just like to say that I feel so much better after this conversation. I don't feel like, and it maybe you feel different, but I don't feel like we should, be the ones that answer how much it is, just how we want to approach it. I think they should decide, the actual amount and how they proceed. But with guidance and knowing, what we want to.
I also feel like we have a great amount of information here that we can make a decision tonight. I personally, just my personal thoughts about seeing $75 is a high sticker price, because if you look at this list on both sides, you'll see that these places that charge $75 per RV have 50 amps, they have the campfire experience, they have sewer, they have all the amenities, which you don't quite fully have yet. So my only concern is charging a higher end RV price at this time, but I think if we improve the amenities over time, we can get to that, you know.
Or maybe just a small upcharge, not the 7.
Definitely, I feel we should be raising our prices, we haven't done it in a while, and we look like a great discount, and the fact that we don't advertise. Kind of keeps it at a good level right now where people enjoy coming here. I think if we do advertise it, we will have to probably raise prices because of the volume that we're dealing with, so.
Like I said in the last meeting, I don't know that I would be opposed to increasing during holiday weekends either, just having, you know, that surcharge like a Lyft or whatever, Uber. During
Yeah.
surge pricing, you know, and if you're trying to get one after a concert, you're spending twice as much almost. I wouldn't be 100% opposed to something like that, but it's
maybe
mostly.
you should,
More dynamic.
have the, surge pricing, connected to the weather report. You don't have it connected. Weekend prices up by $10.
So the other thing, I just wanna make sure that we've talked about it at other meetings, and this doesn't take anything away from Laurel at all. Ports are not great at operating businesses. I feel really blessed in where we are right now with who we have in place. And I feel like we're in a strong position as ever to really tackle this business and make it function at its highest level. But without a Laurel, right, I don't have that same sort of confidence. And I don't know that I can always find another Laurel, or that there's always an answer to that. And these sorts of things, we could take this campground and I could pave it and do 50 amps and put campgrounds in, and I could make sure that we had the fire rings that people rented, and we could really dive, but it starts to break down because we're government. So in order for me to do anything, it comes to you and it takes an extra 2 weeks, and it takes 5 people to agree, and all these things that we want to do that businesses do really well. They move quick, they respond to the circumstances, right? That's why the private sector succeeds so much better than government does. And so that's just something I want you guys to keep in mind too, and that we don't get too far down a path where we get too excited about owning and operating different businesses. This one, we already own it, we already operate it, we might as well do it at the best level possible. But it's something that we could easily start struggling with again if we weren't to have a Laurel. If we weren't to have somebody who really views it with this sort of passion and day to day, I want to see this get better and improve, because I'm not going to get that with every camp host. With some camp hosts, I'm going to get, I clock in at 11, I clock in at 10, they got here at 10:30, they're not getting in tonight, and now you have customer service issues, and we have all these things, and now the port sucks. Why does the port suck? Well, the port doesn't suck. I had a bad experience at the campground, but now the port sucks, right? And we see that pretty much anywhere where we engage with the public. If they have a bad experience, then the entire port of Cascade Locks is a bummer.
Yeah.
Versus
It's completely different website now, so.
Right.
Hey,
I did have a question about, so we have the RV in the tent, I guess whenever Parker brought over the numbers last time, we also had the PCT hikers as well as the GRA stuff.
Yeah.
So it seems like we want to start looking at any of that, and we need to have all four of those potential costs.
Right.
Yes,
We are recommending that.
we are
Increase
recommending
in
an increase.
PCT.
Right.
There's some question about whether or not we were always supposed to charge $5 for a pen site, $5 for a shower. What I know is that last year, I was told it was $5 for both. I genuinely believe PCT hikers, particularly if they're given the ability to register and pay online, will have no problem paying $10.
Right.
I agree, I agree, shower included.
And
I-
they want to go, they have an hour, they don't take hour, they're giving you that open end.
I agree.
Yeah.
And all those are not crazy.
Yeah. And the more of that,
Take
that I can,
6 months off from work and go, like, they can afford $10 for it.
their equipment is extraordinarily expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're taking all that time. So yeah, they think it's a great deal, and all businesses in town love them. You know, so they get their free beer at PIB, they're very excited about that. So I feel that $10 is really reasonable for what they get.
All right. we have-
One last
we're
thought.
actually- oh,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry, just
Okay.
one last thought, where, oh gosh, what name of the town, right next to Mount Adams. And they have, yes, and they have that little.
I
store.
love the store,
Yeah,
if I could make a campground store.
you're aware of it, that's.
I love it.
If we
I
can
love
help
it.
If we can.
Well, they
help
are putting a
campers
new
like
floor
they
in the
do.
cook shack, so you could maybe turn that into a little store.
I have a shed,
Like a
and Jeremiah
concession,
promised to give me a new.
concession stand. Like that.
Oh, great.
I think an ideal campground, there'd be the store, and right in site number 2 would be shop.
Is, without a motion, does somewhere in that $8 to $12 increase start to sound something that's more tolerable? Because what I'd like to do is bring you back an actual price. You guys were also fairly open to potentially charging PCT typers more so that they were paying for their showers, right? So those were other discussions that we had.
Right.
I don't think last conversation anyone had any problems with the CGRA or the PCT increases.
So what I'd rather do than us make a motion now and then we come back and be like, hey, we also needed to do some other increases. Let me take the feedback that we have now, bring you back maybe a couple of choices that fall sort of more in line with the discussion that we just had, and also pick up some of that PCT stuff, some of the CGRA stuff that we talked about. We have some surcharges, like there's $10 if you cancel. I'm not saying we're gonna change that, but I want you to see the whole pricing structure when you guys approve it.
I think
One of the
we
things I
need
want to do
to
is.
get a consensus on the $8 to $12 range might be acceptable.
Yeah, it's somewhere in there.
Great.
I'm leaning more towards 5, but.
Okay, so
I think we need more towards higher, so. 8 to
Yeah,
12
there-
sounds
there we go.
minimal.
Insurance has gone up, inflation's gone up, I think we should.
Just be water.
And if we don't do it now, or if we just do a little bit, like, we haven't raised rates what, since 2020, you said?
Are showers included with
I think
our?
it's going to just, it's gonna be that much more painful next time.
To get showers.
Cause I don't know about you, I don't have an RV, but if I did have an RV, I'd be
So they don't.
still
have to
using
do
the restroom and the showers
No, Wi-Fi.
in the campground rather than messing up the RV where I'd have to go and flush the system and
Yeah.
empty the gray
So
water.
what I was trying to say was that we're gonna have to do it eventually, and we haven't raised it in a very long time. So it's either we do it now, or we just push it off, and then it's gonna be worse in the future.
Or what
And if we
about,
wanna do,
like, you know, give a year,
yeah, it sounds like we're gonna get some options for that, but if we want to, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
sorry,
Um,
sorry, Albert.
If we wanna do some of these things like lockers or the store, or things like that, we're obviously gonna have to have some sort of increased revenue.
Right.
And we're able to have the increased revenue and all of those things paid for by the park or by the campgrounds. By raising these rates, or at least some of it, then I think we'd be in a better spot, and I would rather do that now than wait for all summer to get this data, and then we start talking about it, budgeting for next year, and then we actually don't do it for 2 more years. I don't wanna wait that long.
I agree.
So maybe sidetrack. Now, Laurel, it's kind of sort of you're not paid on salary through the port to do that, right? Is part of your kind of your business a little bit, isn't it? You get a percentage, or how's that work?
No,
Because I mean that. No,
no,
No percentage.
you guys buy X number of my hours for a year, and And the nice thing about it is that it means that if Parker needs me up at the October, I can do it up there.
Well, we're just trying to figure out how to keep you here, so if part of that increase meant you somehow, the way your thing was structured, it meant.
Well, she brought me liquors today, so she's doing a pretty good job.
I love it there. As far as I'm concerned, I'll stay forever.
Okay, perfect.
I have Jeremiah, I have a great relationship with Jeremiah and Genevieve. And
Right, that unfavorable.
yeah,
Got a view of the river.
I got a view of the river, I've got
Right,
Farrell.
probably the propane fire pit.
She's got a pretty sweet setup there. I mean, when everybody goes home. First.
Yeah, and then the winter, it's like I live on a great estate with
Yeah.
landscapers. And then surrounded by geese.
Got your
No, it's great. I love
little
it.
right there.
I've loved it since I first saw it.
So I
Tremendous campus.
I think what we will do is we'll give the commission some time to look over this, right? To compare some of these, ones themselves, some of the feedback that you guys got today. And I think at the next meeting, I bring you some options for an increase. We can swoop it all in once and whatever passes, whether it's a 5% increase or whatever you guys determine. But I think a little bit of time to let this conversation sit in and some of the things we thought about. If we can get a chance to go down and hang out at the campground a little bit and, you can come see Laurel. He's got 7-Ups in the fridge.
I always have 7-Up in the fridge.
I think I said this at the last meeting, but if it hasn't been said, campers that book their stays now are locked in at those rates.
Yeah.
And so we will have some idea if we're losing additional campers as the summer goes on.
I will know.
We should be able to see that without a 100% impact to our budget.
Right, and the other thing that I wanted to mention is that as part of what I'm proposing, we currently don't charge a processing fee to people who walk in. And to be honest, they take more time to collect information from, make sure that they pay, make sure that the check clears, everything, than someone who does it online.
Right.
And so I would want everyone to pay a processing fee. And we can easily do that by increasing, by adding that to the first night's rate. We have that ability on the buy book, it just increases that rate by whatever you decide across the board. I'm not having any problem with people who come in, we're doing it online right now. Because they do get charged $10 processing fee. And they can see it posted up on the board that it's 21. And they get online and they see, oh, and a $10 processing fee, no problem. I've not had anybody complain.
I've got $500 sitting in, advertising for the campground that we haven't spent this year. You wanna do a advertising campaign and see if it drives people to the campground, and all of a sudden the price increase doesn't seem quite as necessary because now we've got people coming in because we're spending $500 in advertising. Like I can try that. We can try those things.
Is that part of an annual?
We typically don't have advertising in there. We decided we were talking about potentially staying, can't remember, I think it was just because of the upgrades that we were gonna have. If I had done my upgrades, we were gonna be open year round with showers, and Albert was like, we should be notifying and advertising the people that we're a year round campground.
So is this internet advertising or, per?
Yeah, we do some sort of internet advertising.
It'd be interesting Instagram.
There's
So,
tons
say,
and-
Facebook, Instagram.
I was gonna say, as much as I love our little local papers, I'm not sure putting, local advertising.
I think this would be-
Papers works when somebody's trying to find a campground because they're already here.
Yeah, this would be
Yeah.
online.
And I'd really like to target some of the youth hostels in Portland. Because they can take advantage of CAT to get out here, walk down to the campground and camp. And I think that's a good way to possibly fill up our midweek.
$500 is a real healthy Instagram campaign.
Yeah,
Movement
Instagram,
strategy.
and also, Janetta and I are finding ways to work with each other. Because certainly we've already booked out, I think, the campgrounds we booked out completely 2 or 3 times by Janetta in association with an event.
Another thing that would definitely get advertising exposure amongst the international community and PCT hikers is an app called Halfway Anywhere. They do have a booth at PCT days. It's basically an all-in-one app you can buy for like 20 or $30. It has offline maps for all the 3 states of the PCT, and it tells you where you can camp, where you can get amenities and all that stuff,
Called Halfway Anywhere.
halfway to anywhere.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, it's been a great conversation. Anybody have any last statements, ideas? Okay.
How much you wanna charge for earplugs by the railroad?
Yes.
There's another business idea. You guys still, just the discussion. All right. Executive Director report.
It's been a busy couple of weeks since we saw you guys last, including Saturday, so with the strategic business plan. Moved through some of the highlights here, some that didn't quite make the list, but one of the other things we are looking at is moving events off of Flybook. So when we first bought Flybook in, we said, hey, we need one system that handles the marina, that handles the campground, and that also handles events. We very quickly figured out, hey, it doesn't work really well with the marina, so we got different software. We tried to make it with events. Thank you, Laurel.
Thank you.
We're also finding that some of the accounting problems that we've had with the unearned revenue have to do the way that events report through Flybook. We took a system and kind of bent it and tried to make it a fit all. And really events kind of needs its own software to manage its clients and to manage the money in, to manage out. They do things like pay large deposits, right? If they decide to cancel, then they only get half of that deposit back. So there's just some different things that happen within the events business that happen in the campground business, and they should be separate. It would have been awesome to have a single system that worked for all three, but it doesn't. So that's something that Jeanette is looking at. Will probably make its way to this commission when we select one, and then be in the budget for next year. I'm not gonna steal Parker's thunder because he's been in videos and out there moving bridges. You wanna give us a quick update on?
Sure. Well, Megan Morgan came in on Monday to mobilize their team to the park. They successfully lifted the bridge on a sliding gear and slid the bridge over to its final resting place. It now sits on the slide gear for Bulldog Welding to come tomorrow and set the new bridge bearings. There's nothing stating that they should run into any issues. And then the following day after that would be Thursday, Omega Morgan comes in to set the bridge onto the new bearings to its final resting place on the dock or on the deck. Excuse me. We have Friday set for Omega Morgan to demobilize as well, and they will more than likely be demobilized out of the park by Thursday. On Monday, we have a company called Contact coming in to do the concrete girder repair. They will set the forms for the concrete, and then it takes a couple days to dry. At that time, the Tuesday, while that concrete's drying, the other concrete repair group is gonna come in and fix the concrete decking. And then that concrete will dry. Contact will come back in to remove their forms on the Thursday, and they'll do a leapfrog until the following Monday. And once all of the forms are off, those will be inspected. Bulldog comes in again to complete handrail repairs in kind. Then we have Cobra Electric coming to re-energize electricity to the island with a new emergency shut-off switch located further in a more easily identifiable place than where it was the last time. And then after that, our guys will re-energize the water line to the island. And then we've got a few days to a week and a half of inspection, with time to inspect. And that puts us close to Friday, which Friday would be the 17th, or no, Friday would be the 12th. And the following Monday is the 15th. I would like to reopen the bridge at that point.
Too bad, while they were doing all that, they couldn't do like some pretty stamped concrete,
It'd be more like a couple of the hand.
on the top of that. Looks like stones, looks like stone papers or something. I mean, what work, spend a million.
And so that's pretty much it. That's the bridge project, timeline where it sits.
On track.
We're on track. Don't foresee anything. Picking the bridge up was the big part of it. That was, I was worried we were gonna run into issues there, and we got halfway through it. And so next we'll just keep plugging away.
Cool.
Well,
Love it.
We're right there.
Thanks, Mark. Another highlight out of operations and also admin, we were able to work with Jetty Lights Insurance to get a check to the Brigham family whose pitching platform was taken down. Able to turn that around fast enough that I think we've already seen them down there doing some
Yeah, they
additional work,
removed
right?
the worst one, they've removed it, floated it down the river. They'll be working on weekends in between our work. And we have that scheduled out with them, and they're, it's just a verbal contract, but that's how they came to me with it, that they'd like to work on the weekends, and I said, great, we've got nobody there on the weekends.
The weather improved, we started seeing campground or picnic tables getting painted, maintenance also moved a number of picnic tables out into the park, because we knew it was gonna be busy this weekend, it was busy this weekend. You'll start to see more and more of the summer activities starting to take place out of maintenance, ordering our bark chips, ordering our grass seed, those things started to come into place. We also met with Joel Carmody with Hood River County Sheriffs. That was great, he's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
So what's he's the Marine?
Sergeant, he's Sergeant Carmody and he's the Marine deputy.
Marine deputy. And so we came out and we talked a little bit about the potential of getting a rescue boat out to the mooring site or marina. We talked to him about some of the work that Rob and Commissioner Peterson have been doing around getting life jackets. So thank you, Commissioner Peterson, who got the life jacket station in. We were able to get Joel to donate some life jackets for that. So he's going to be here on Friday. He's going to start with some life jackets. So you're going to start seeing those down at the beach sooner rather than later. So that's exciting. That came together very quickly, and we certainly appreciate his support in that. Minority Leader Jeff Elfrich stopped by. Got to spend a little time with him. I don't know if you had an opportunity to. Do we have videos out yet?
No, not yet.
Not yet. So also like to applaud Genevieve, who is taking the bull by the horns when it comes to social media and putting some videos together for the hard work that we're doing. Commissioner Kluge and Commissioner Tweet got to star in one of those videos. We also went down and visited the fire station, took some videos of the cool life jackets they got. Those have arrived. The new knives to go with them, and I can't remember what that other bag is.
It's a rope kit.
The rope kit.
And whistle.
And a whistle.
That's
right.
Yeah, regarding the life jacket, CETO also sent out 100 waterproof stickers you put on the life jackets.
Oh,
They
cool.
kind of say like borrow and return.
Nice.
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 Great idea.
There's been some work going on behind the scenes with some of our partners from Hood River County Emergency Management. Thank you so much. You're the best. Emergency management. We'll talk a little bit more about it here shortly. There's a few more things we want to get in place, a few more stakeholders that we want to make sure are helping us through this, and we thank them for them. But the rumblings have been that we have a solution for a heating station in Cascade Locks and emergency power that was spearheaded a lot by Commissioner Nance. And as well as Commissioner Peterson and Commissioner, probably all commissioners. Did you guys all make it down to the warming station and the cooling station during the blizzard? I know,
I was there.
I know you were there. I know Rob and I rode around actually and shoveled it out, and Commissioner Nance made it a commitment. We have to solve that. So I think we've almost got that solved in place, and we'll talk about it a little bit more as we get more of the stakeholders involved. We need to go and talk to the school board a little bit. And so before we talk a bit any more about that, we'll get a few more of those folks on board. American Cruise Lines is submitting their permitting processes. We submitted into the city. The city is requesting a conditional use permit in order to have a dock at the port. They are also telling us that we're likely to need a traffic study on the
Another one,
The-
the same area,
What traffic?
We're working through it.
We're meeting cars. It's gonna be
can
one
they
big
use the one they just did?
bus.
We're working through it. It's a delay it's a delay that I anticipated because we haven't seen any change yet, right? That's the process. That is some of what the city and the port coming together was to talk about. Hey, how can we work better together? What are some things that get in the way of the mission that it seems the council and the commission has? This was one of those things. change takes time, especially at the government level. So although I was disappointed to hear that we're gonna need a traffic study, I wasn't entirely surprised because nothing's really changed the way they do business at the planning level, or the conditional use permits, like those things still remain in place. But I think that you guys are well aware of it, and I think the council is well aware of it. So we're going through those steps, but I know ACO was disappointed for that to be a delay. Spoke with Juan today. A little disappointed. We really were hoping for a Cinco de Mayo. It's looking more like Cinco de 15th. Right? But still exciting. So we're still looking towards May for an opening. Didn't have, just a couple delays on his end. He was disappointed to tell me that, but May 15th. So, excited about that. Council, Matt gave most of those updates. We had some illegal camping taking place on port property. It was reported by a citizen. It's far out on port property along the water line, just a place we don't use and a place that people don't visit. You would really need to access it through the railroad tracks. We haven't quite, Hood River haven't been able to actually engage with the camper yet. So, but if you hear about it from other citizens, we're aware of it. We're trying to rectify it.
Camper?
Yeah, a tent of some sort.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because typically when there's RVs parked down there for a period of time, there are sometimes portable bathhouses, so.
But this one's just a camper. This one's just
Okay.
he's just a camper. And he's halfway between like the business park and the beach down the railroad tracks. It's kind of a hike in. But we showed it to the Brigham County Sheriffs. They said they'd follow up next time they're out here. So we'll stay on top of that. Stormwheeler left. So excited about that. Stormwheeler got underway last night at 1 a.m. So they're at JT Marina. They're already making great steps. Engines are coming out. New engines will be going in. We're also going to make upgrades to some of the electronic system. We're going to make obviously fix the damage that was done. That's more on Jetty Life that we're not really taking into consideration of, but Strangler is supposed to be back in 3 to 4 weeks. And I'll give you guys updated throughout that. Sort of as I get pictures, I'll kind of send them to you so you guys can track some of that project.
Do you have an estimated date when Thunder Island will be open?
Are we ready to give a hard date? You still want to say 15th? That's right.
Estimated on April 15th.
Yeah.
That's, by May 4th or May 1st, absolutely. But May or April 15th is the day we're shooting for still, and nothing is pointing to that not being the day.
Thank you.
Ribbon cutting, something. I think my suggestion is to have Riley, the little pit bull pup that walks the island every day. I think she should be the first person. Riley uses that island more than anybody else.
Is that Christian? What?
Yes, correct. Right.
Yeah.
There's some.
We make a motion to have Riley be the first agent.
All right, commissioner comments, let's start on this end this time.
All right, my first one, I know we talked about it last time at the last meeting, but the centennial celebration of our bridge. Need to figure out if we can create a subcommittee of some sort to start kicking off these events. We can start looking for sponsors and stuff like that, maybe set some budget aside for it, like going forward.
Yeah, if I can get a general consensus from the commission that that's something that can move forward to, what I'll do is I'll bring you back a charge for a advisory committee to the commission. It requires public meetings as an advisory commission, which is good, so maybe a monthly meeting, but we'd have a couple of commissioners and then some citizens on it or professionals that within, either some of this industry, but whoever on it. But if that's something you guys are comfortable with, yeah, we'll go and we'll put a charge together for that, start putting a subcommittee together.
Sounds good.
I'd be all for it, obviously. I'd like to be on it.
We'll bring it back to the commission, you guys can vote on that. Okay.
And then, just wanna make sure that we're still looking at recognizing Captain Tom for his 40 years of service, 40+ years now of service with us. And then, also working on putting together recognition for all involved, for their heroism that happened the day the steering wheeler broke loose. So is there any plans in works? I wanna just make sure that we're doing something, to help recognize him in a possibly more timely manner.
Yeah, I think that that's always something that's sort of been in the works and in the plans, I mean, since last year, right? A bit of a transition last year, so I think it's a better fitting year this year when it comes to honoring Captain Tom. I think in the list of things we'll honor him for at his 41 is going to be the heroism with the stern wheeler. At the same time, we have to honor the heroism of Stephen and as well as George. So I think we'll do a little something that's for all three of them. That'll maybe be a part of the bigger party for George. Genevieve talked about it with me today. We'll look for a place in the budget to pull it from. It would be community events, could usually be in.
When you do it on the steering wheeler and everybody who, since we're Cascade Locks residents, gets on free anyway.
I can't guarantee that we'll do it on the steering wheeler. I need to look at the budget for that. We get a good deal from the steering wheeler, but we don't get it for free. So we'll look and see what the budget will allow, but I imagine that it will be a well-attended and exciting time for everybody. We're gonna put on a good party for Captain Tom. No one deserves it more.
And then,
We do have almost $3,000 left for our Christmas celebration that we didn't have.
Did you see that? You actually said
So there's money.
Thank you. We will find it. We'll find it's appropriate to pull from the budget.
and lastly, I wouldn't be, who I am without bringing up Flex 6.
I have a meeting tomorrow in Hood River. For now, I'm still gonna keep it to ourselves on who the actual business is that's interested in it. But we're meeting with Darren from Tennyson. We're gonna talk about what the tenants is potentially looking for, what build outs would look like in that, what sort of investment that they potentially would need from the port, or what sort of rent abatements or things that we could offer that might make it advantageous for this business to move in sooner rather than later. To be as forthcoming as possible. I think their timeline is probably farther out than your guys' timeline is. And if I can find a way to bring a proposal back to you guys that shortens that timeline and get someone in there sooner rather than later, that's my goal right now. But I'm excited about it.
We did have a tour from the business recruitment team at Business Oregon last week and had a real in-depth discussion with them on ways that they can help us with marketing to site selectors. They do have a competitive sort of a contest for industrial sites in Oregon that achieve that sort of, if you're one of the top 30 sites, you get some extra promotion with site selectors through Business Oregon. And so of course, we're going to pursue that in parallel with our direct outreach to our target people.
And we've certainly been throughout Flex 6 being empty. We've been active with site selectors and then not active because we had deals that were in place, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time where we're active with Business Oregon, trying to get in front of site selectors. It was projects that were multi-year projects, right? And you were always looking for shorter timeframes. So it is an exciting opportunity. I think it is an avenue that we have to continue to explore because we have to explore all opportunities on Flex 6. But a lot of those site selector ones, it isn't like, hey, we need to move next month. It's right. They're really long-term deals. They're looking for very specific requirements around power, around water, around space. Not to say there isn't a perfect fit out there that's just absolutely looking for us, but it's something we've explored before. So it's not new, but it is time for us to re-engage Business Oregon and say, hey, listen, the other things we've tried haven't been producing any fruit. How do we get back in front of some of these site selectors? It's very possible though that once we sort of get back in that realm, that we'll get some site selectors, some businesses that we get through that site selection, they come to us and want to bring out really long-term sorts of in the next 2 years. And right now, what I feel from this commission is like, we need something now.
Okay,
I do have one question. Did you ever find out the rescheduling date of the Port City Morgan training by chance?
We have not set a date for that yet.
Yeah.
need to connect with the city and, on that and find out, we just didn't get enough attendance, people were out, people were sick, and all of that, we had very little turnout from the city, so thank you for all, almost everybody attending, on our side, but, largely, a lot of that was organized, trying to put our finger on some of the deficits that we think exist between the city and the port, and a lot of that is planning. So, that was, a lot of it was focused on more the city council and the planning commission and those folks than us, but, how we're all gonna learn to work together. So we have, obviously let John Morgan know that he wasn't gonna be doing the training, but, we would reschedule and, very much, want to do that. I'm still talked to him a couple times this week over some little things and just, reinforcing the fact that he's a great asset and, would be a great addition to, doing planning here. So anyway, but that will be coming up and we'll make sure we let everybody know, we'll mark it well ahead of time and, hopefully, get much better attendance, at a later date.
The only thing that came out. The only thing that comes to mind this week, after talking to, some community folks, is the question about media. We love media. We love our media folks. We love that they join us and tell us stories, about what we're having or what we're doing. But sometimes they may misquote or not provide full context. So I would suggest anybody that's reading or listening now, if it's great to read the media, but if you want a question, go look at the minutes. And then you'll find out the context or something that may have been missing. So I just really want to say thank you to the media. I think they do a great job. And I am just floored by Laurel and Campground. The last meeting was so dry and this was a lot more, it filled a lot of information that I guess I was missing that I didn't know I was missing. So I appreciate and bringing it to us, but we were just looking at financials and talking financials and it helps to have, hear it from the campo. So thank you for coming in and and thank you to Matt and David. I haven't talked to him as much as I have Matt. Thank you. Thank you for meeting with us, for Rob and me on the side also, but for providing the update and getting us back on track. And of course, thank you to everyone.
Let's see where I start. Laurel, thank you for being an awesome camp host and also wanted to make an announcement that Laurel has helped started the nonprofit Main Street Cascade Locks last week. She's the president and Main Street's a similar organization to, it's a national organization that helps organize small towns into revitalizing their downtown and search for grant opportunities for businesses, downtown revitalization. Stevenson and Mosier are two close cities that are starting to use it as well. So that's starting to form. I think we're in our second monthly board meeting now. So
Yeah, we're coming up
for this.
officially our second.
Yeah. So stay tuned for more stuff from Main Street.
Robert, are you guys gonna establish a 501c3?
It's a 501c3.
It already is done, you guys, okay.
Yeah, the application is pending. It should take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks to complete.
Okay, as soon as you get that status, I have a grant.
Pardon?
As soon as you get that status, I've got a grant for you to go.
Yeah,
We have a finance committee.
as of right now, it's a registered organ nonprofit.
Yeah, great.
The pending process, the 501c3 goes to the IRS, takes a little bit longer.
Okay.
So. As for other things, a big thank you to House Rep Helfrich and Senator Bonham for securing the $6 million for our bridge. There's definitely some big impact studies that we need to look at. It's gonna help move along with the PCT Spanway pedestrian crossing, so thanks again for that. Yesterday and today I was out doing some drum recording for the port. Was really impressed with Parker and Jeremiah for organizing all the efforts, getting the bridge back into good shape on Thunder Island. And today they realigned the bridge, so it looks like a normal, safe, crossing now, so. It's really interesting.
Don't cross it yet, though, please. Stay off it a little longer, please.
Yeah.
It does look so much.
Bill and rail.
Yeah, the handrails are still missing, it still needs some patchwork on the side, but it's a big progress point, and I'm really happy to see that, because. Not having people walking on that beautiful island is, something not to look forward to, so. It's good to see we're moving along there. Thank you to Carrie, for your outside activities, or you organized the birthday pickup with the Adopt Highway next month. So, I appreciate that. April 21st, if you want to help clean up on Highway 84, Carrie will be leading that. I've been doing local budget training last week. The first one was proposing budget, the second one was approving budget. And then this Thursday, I finished the final class for the SDAO, for applying changes after an adopted budget. It's been really helpful considering that we're entering our new budget season, so thank you to the port for providing the training. The light bus stations, the Canoe Club nonprofit received a light bus station from CETO Foundation. We received it on Monday. It's ready to go at the clubhouse, and thank you to the port for acquiring those light vests to fill those up. So we'll now proceed to figure out what's the first good location to have these at. And then in November, the Canoe Club will be applying for a grant for resupply of life jackets and maybe additional stations as well. Very cool. The last thing, I guess, there's an Easter egg hunt at the end of the month. Gorgeous Beer Company is hosting that, so if you want to volunteer on some of the operations with that, that will be going on. But that's all I got to say.
Rob, is that Easter egg hunt at Gorgeous or in the park?
It's at Gorgeous. Yeah, I was talking to a few people, but it seemed like Gorgeous seemed like the best location for that, given the short timeline and lack of staff, so.
I believe we also have church services in there that Sunday, have reserved the pavilion for Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
Your hands.
Thank you. To echo a couple of things that actually everyone said, thank you very much for coming in, adding the color and a lot of the context to this, the conversation around completeness is incredibly helpful for everyone, so thank you very much. I also want to thank our area Oregon elected officials, Operation Bonham, for securing that $6 million for the bridge. Obviously, it was an incredibly long labor of love to make that happen. So very appreciative of all the work that went into that, not only from them, but also from everyone at the board that's been involved from the start. I also want to give a quick plug for the PTO Casino Night, which supports the PTO, Cascade Locks Elementary School PTO. That'll be April 20th. I will say that again before the April 20th, but enter ticket now. I also want to say thanks to Parker, Jeremiah, and Chief Logan on helping to I guess start the warming and clean air station that we will talk about further and more in depth in future episodes. And then finally, I texted you a little bit about this, Jeremiah, but I love Easy Climb. Me and my family for sure goes there at least once a week. And we were there Sunday morning and the place was packed. It was, there were probably 10 cars there.
Yeah.
Place was packed, people were out riding their bicycles. I was doing the wall for my dog and my daughter was riding her bike and the view was out there and I was like,
Yeah.
there's nothing better than this.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And so I have definitely seen a large uptick of people that are visiting there. People are definitely enjoying the picnic tables, enjoying the swing that's there. I think that it's probably a good area where we could probably add more of those because I saw all of the cars there. And there were some people that actually parked, noticed that there was only one table, they couldn't do anything and just left. So there's potential for more picnic tables there. And definitely more signs and more paid parking. I can't tell you if anyone actually paid for parking, maybe you guys can tell me that. But there were a lot of cars there and it was pretty obvious that they were not from here. So we want to make sure that if people are enjoying it, that at least they're paying for parking. Because Easy Climb is wonderful for hikes, it's wonderful for bicycles, and it's wonderful just for the view. So if we have folks coming out there and it's getting more traction, want to make sure that we're getting some support. So even if it's just additional signs or whatnot, that's great. And then if we do want to add more picnic tables, at least we'll be able to start putting some money towards those by having people pay for those. And then now that is we're starting to see better weather, I'm also seeing a lot more people go out towards the east, of course. Every time we go by, there's multiple cars there every single time. So just those things keep on the radar. I live right there. I visit it all the time. I'm starting to see an uptick, so let's
Close to home.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But that's it. So thank you all very much.
Awesome.
We should,
Well-
just on that, we should,
Yeah. No,
should be sure to thank all of the volunteers at the Northwest Trail Alliance for all their work. We met with Ted Dodge very quickly today, and as you probably saw on Facebook, we met with Andy Jansky out at the new trail that they're constructing. Just a tremendous amount of work. Ted came in today because they have their machinery here for the new trail. They wanted to see if it would be okay to do some trail maintenance on Easy Climb, so there's that 40-foot little skinny log feature that they're going to be fixing that. And they're going to be reshaping some berms and things like that. And they also asked if it would be okay to, you know, when the little whoopty whoops at the bottom, they want to add some features with some rocks and some dirt for kind of like a mini family man, but with no wood, just rocks and dirt, and do some enhancements there. So we'll have an announcement when they're actually gonna be doing that trail work, but that's totally volunteer and it's a labor of love for them. And we're so lucky to have them as a partner, so.
And on the uptick in the usage down there in Easy Climb, we'll be advertising here shortly for seasonal maintenance. We certainly, lots of garbage to clean up out there when it uptake goes through, and we have garbage cans at 3 different locations. Now there's picnic tables, now there is swings, right? So that's part of what our seasonal maintenance comes on, is to do some of the upkeep on some of those recreational spots that we've had. We definitely have seen people using it more.
Actually, to that point, there's on the west side, where there's a little field on the west side, that is all blackberry bushes. And whenever I was out there just on Sunday, you're starting to see the new like baby leaves, buds coming out. So that's about to get wild and crazy in the next couple of weeks. So if we get maintenance up there quicker, get rid of those things as soon as possible, it'll be better for everybody, because they'll quickly climb over that walking path that's right there.
You can't get rid of that.
Another thing to add is, given the uptake in great weather and more visitors start looking into the porta potty rentals, because I believe they're not out there yet.
Yeah, started, when porta potties drop.
We usually don't start doing that until after April.
Yeah,
I wanna say into May.
before we start dropping porta potties out there.
Memorial Day, right?
Well, we'll make this unanimous. Thank you, Laurel, for talking about the campground. It was in-depth, and Parker for doing what you do as well.
Note to self, bring Laurel to every meeting.
And thank you to all of our commissioners, you guys being involved, not just here at the commission, I mean, but doing the extra things, doing the subcommittees, doing the trainings, life vest, stations, being on, Main Street USA, which incidentally, John Morgan was the one who brought up Main Street USA 15, I guess I've known John for nearly 20 years, ever since I've been here. But he was the one who originally said, hey, we need to do Main Street USA program and use incremental tax financing, but we did not have a team at that time in the city. We had people who liked to complain about the things that didn't happen, but didn't want to be involved. And that this group, the way everybody's getting involved, the way they're doing different things, outside of your day-to-day stuff, here with the commission. I mean, you're doing, great things in the community, getting involved, and I see that we're on a great path towards actually making something happen here. And kudos to everybody about how much effort you put into everything. And,
She's working on commission stuff right now. Doing great. You're hired.
well,
Multitasking.
$6 million that we got to spend some time with Jeff Elfrich this week, which I've also known for almost 20 years. And it's great to see him, go from a council member position here in that I conned him into start getting, probably 12 years ago. And him now being a state rep is pretty amazing. But and then for him to give it back to us with $6 million and his effort, along with Dan Bonham and everybody's efforts. But no, this has been great. We're looking forward to what we can do with that 6. Hopefully that'll parlay into 12 with a little help from our friends across the river. And so great times ahead. We're on a good run. Well, that's all I have. If no one has any objections, we can adjourn.
Good with it?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laurel. Oh, she put important meeting dates on the agenda.
Yeah.